Hello and welcome back to Down To The Tyre. Now, I know it's been so long since I recorded an episode, and I've also just rebranded. We've got a new logo, a new vibe going. So I just wanted to record a bit of a solo episode as my comeback, because it has been quite a few months since I've done an episode. And another weird thing I realised is it's also a year since I launched the podcast, which is absolutely insane. Like, I can't believe it. So I just kind of thought, let's do the exact same episode that I started the podcast with a year ago. The F3 season has just finished. Let's do a little F3 championship review, roundup, summary, because we now know who won the championship. So I don't think there's going to be much structure to this episode, to be honest. I just kind of want to share my thoughts. I've not planned anything, I've not written anything down, but yeah, I just wanted to speak about it. And if my voice sounds a little bit rough, I do have a bit of a cold, which probably wasn't the best time to record, but I'm in bed, I can't really go anywhere because I'm feeling under the weather, so let's get into it. So for anyone who didn't watch F3 this year, I don't even know where to start because it feels like so much has happened. I went into the season very much like I had my championship contenders in my mind. After Macau, I thought Luke Browning was a championship contender, and pleased to announce I was right. Pleased to announce that he was in contention for the championship by the end of the year. Other drivers who I thought would be in contention were, to be honest, all three Prema drivers: Dino Beganovic, Gabriele Mini and Arvid Lindblad. Now, it was mainly Mini who actually ended up being a championship contender, which is what I expected. I expected him to be kind of the front runner. Dino Beganovic didn't quite reach the heights that I thought he would this year. He did well, but not amazingly. And then Arvid Lindblad was the best rookie, and he's just been announced as stepping up to F2 with Campos, which is, again, very predictable because Campos and the Red Bull Junior Academy links. Campos always have two Red Bull Juniors in their F2 team. This year they had Isaac Hadjar and Pepe Marti. I think it's fair to assume that Isaac Hadjar will not be doing F2 again. So it makes sense that Arvid Lindblad has that seat. I also really thought Trident always have a championship contender, right? Like, everyone knows that Trident is probably, arguably, alongside Prema, the best team in F3. And out of their lineup of Leonardo Fornaroli, Sami Megatuniv and Santiago Ramos, obviously Leonardo Fornaroli is the most experienced driver. I thought that it was pretty guaranteed that he would be the one of the three that would be a championship contender. I was right, again, not to toot my own horn. Apart from that, they were kind of the main three that I thought would be championship contenders: Fornaroli, Mini and Browning. Wow, what a prediction. But there were some other drivers as well who I kind of had my eye on as drivers who could do well, but maybe not competing for the championship. I was really intrigued to see how a lot of the drivers who stepped up from GB3 would do. Callum Voisin, Joseph Loke, Alex Dunn. I thought they'd have not championship contending years, but I thought they'd have like a few moments of like showing their potential. I think this quite often happens with drivers who step up from GB3. They kind of step up to a team that's maybe not the best team, like Rodin, for example, where Voisin and Loke both were. And they sort of step up and they show that they're good, but they can't do loads at that point because the car is not the best. And that happened with Zach O'Sullivan. It's happened with Callum Voisin and Joseph Loke, I'd say, as well, particularly Voisin, who I think is probably the strongest driver of the pairing. Alex Dunn as well, again with MP, a slightly better team, I'd say, in Formula 3. He's also had quite a few moments where I think he's shown his potential. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at going into the season. So I guess let's start from the start, because there were 10 rounds, which is very satisfying to me. I like the fact that there's such a round number of races in Formula 3. I think some other championships, F1 could learn. I think 24 is... Anyway, this is a topic for another podcast. So Bahrain feels like months ago now. Absolutely ages ago. Like, I can't even process that the season is over now. But obviously, Dino Beganovic started the season really well, got pole. I have to say that I feel like he peaked quite early in the season. Like, I think the first couple of rounds were really, really good for Dino Beganovic, and then it unfortunately maybe didn't really carry on how I would have liked to see him go, but that's fine. We'll focus on the later rounds later, but we'll just talk about Bahrain for now, where Dino Beganovic got pole position for the feature race. He didn't end up winning it though. He got the fastest lap, but Luke Browning won. And I think this was really a mission statement from Luke. Kind of coming into the season, last year wasn't the best in F3 for him, without being harsh, because I think it was again one of those years where he just stepped up from GB3. He showed his potential, but 2024 was where it really all came together for him, and he won the first feature race. I think that was a statement of, you know, last year was good but not great. He won Macau. That was kind of a breakthrough moment for him, and now he came back to F3 and he was like, I want to fight for this championship. And then Arvid Lindblad won the sprint race. Again, I think this was a big statement. He stepped up from F4, didn't do Formula Regional. So I think this was a statement of, you know, I'm a rookie, I'm new here, but I'm here. And I think that was a really strong start to the season for him. And that was probably what enabled him to kind of go on, because he started so well. It enabled him to go on to win Rookie of the Year. In Australia, Albert Park, that was, I'd say, the moment that Fornaroli really stepped up, because he got pole. He did not win the race though, the feature race, because that was Dino Beganovic. And this is what I mean about Dino Beganovic just starting the season really, really well. This is why I thought he was going to be fighting for the championship. It didn't quite happen that way, unfortunately, but yeah, Dino Beganovic did win that feature race. And then Martini Ascension won the sprint race, which I feel like I kind of forgot happened, to be honest. His season was an interesting one. I think, again, moments of showing potential, but it didn't quite come together the whole way through. And then we were on to Imola, where this really was Ollie Goether's weekend in my eyes. I think he did a really, really good job, because he won the sprint race with fastest lap, and then he also got fastest lap in the feature race. I feel like he just had a really, really strong round that time. And then apart from that, it was kind of Tridents, but not Fornaroli, surprisingly. Santiago Ramos got pole position, and then Sami Megatunov went on to win the feature race. So it was kind of Ollie Goether and Trident that stood out in that round. But then we went on to Monaco. Again, Monaco, it's Gabriele Mini's world, and we're just living it every single year. Every single year, it's just Gabriele Mini. What a driver at Monaco. What a driver. He was on pole, and then he won the feature race. Didn't manage to do the double this year. That would be Nicolas Solov, who won the sprint race. Again, Nicolas Solov is a driver who I think had a lot of really strong moments throughout the year. I feel like he was always there, and then he'd just kind of win, and then he'd be up there for the rest of the races that he wasn't winning. But he did have some moments where he was really, really shining. I'm surprised he wasn't more in the championship contention, I'll be honest, based on that. But I think it was mainly sprint races that he was successful in, but he did get a feature race win, which we'll come on to. But yeah, Nicolas Solov, I think, is a driver who did really, really well this year. And even though he wasn't in championship contention, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him stepping up to something else, not F3, but we'll see. So yeah, that was Monaco. As I said, Gabriele Mini, I think that was his weekend. And it always is. Has been for the past, couple of years. He's done F3. So yeah. And now we're on to Spain. Catalonia. Christian Mansell. Now, we've not mentioned him yet, and I'm surprised we haven't, because again, another driver who I think had a mega year this year. I think much like Luke Browning, it kind of all came together for him. It really just fell into place. And I'm really, really happy for him that it did, because obviously he's driving an F2 at the moment. He was on pole for the sprint race, not pole, but starting from, you know what I mean, once the grid was reversed, he was starting from the front row, from the P1 spot with Trident. I don't know what he's doing next year. I assume perhaps Trident is signing him because Fornaroli is going to Virtuosi, which is not called Virtuosi anymore, and I need to stop doing that. It's called Invicta now. But I feel like Mansell might end up with Trident full-time next year, unless it's already been announced and I just haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I feel like Mansell has had such a breakthrough year, really, really shown what he can do, and in F2 as well, in the round that he's just done. I am really impressed by Christian Mansell. I think he's had a really solid year. I think, you know, he was so close to fighting for the championship. Just a really solid job from him. And I'm excited to see how F2 goes for him, assuming that he is going to be doing it full-time next year, because he's definitely not going to be doing F3 again, that's for sure. And then we have Arvid Lindblad, who won that feature race. Again, that's a moment that, like, in my head, I remember Arvid Lindblad's sprint race wins, but he actually got quite a few feature race wins as well. I think, honestly, the fact that he was fighting for the championship but not in the top 3 as a rookie is impressive as it is, but when you actually look at the statistics and the amount of races he won, even more impressive, honestly. I think he's done such a good job this year. And yeah, he won the feature race, and then Mary Boyer won the sprint race, which was a highlight of the year for him. Obviously, it's his home race, so that was a really exciting moment. But yeah, Arvid Lindblad and Christian Mansell were the most impressive drivers for me that weekend. And now we move on to the Red Bull Ring. This was a round where I feel like Luke Browning was on top. And it's really funny because I feel like so far, I feel like I've mentioned Leonardo Fornaroli once, and he actually went on to win the championship. Spoilers, sorry. Sorry if you didn't watch it. But I feel like Browning's the driver who I'm mentioning the most. And yet maybe I'm biased because I've watched him throughout his entire career, like in single-seaters since F4. I've always supported him, really thought he's talented. So maybe I'm a little bit biased, but Browning at Red Bull Ring was just, he dominated, to be honest, in my eyes. He got pole position, he won the feature race. The other driver who I have to mention is Nikola Solov, who obviously won the sprint race. Now, again, Solov, I feel like, had so many race wins for someone who wasn't fighting for the championship. Like, I feel like it's baffling to me that he wasn't fighting for the championship when you're reading out the results from the year. But yeah, I feel like Solov did a really good job. But yeah, for me, Browning at the Red Bull Ring was one of the most memorable moments of the season, to be honest. And then again at Silverstone, he continued that and got pole, but he didn't manage to win the race because Silverstone was Arvid Lindblad's weekend. It was Arvid Lindblad's world. We were all just living in it because he won the sprint and the feature. I mean, as a rookie and as a British driver as well, winning at his home race, doing the double, I think that was enough to get him the F2 seat alone, let alone the fact that he came fourth in the championship in the end. Arvid Lindblad, I was so impressed by him that weekend. I think for a rookie, especially a rookie who's just stepped up from F4, I think that needs to be kept in mind because so many drivers obviously spend a bit of time in Formula Regional first before they step up to F3. But he stepped up straight from F4 and I think he was so impressive, especially that weekend. So yeah, Silverstone for me, like, just that was Arvid Lindblad's weekend, and it was so nice to see a rookie doing so well because obviously a lot of the drivers who were in championship contention were second-year drivers, which is great, but to see a rookie up there challenging them, I think that was really cool as well. And then we were at the Hungaroring. Lawrence Van Hopen got pole. I feel like that was the highlight of his season. He didn't get any race wins specifically, but it was really nice to see him on pole. But then Nicolas Solov went on to win that feature race, which as I said earlier, I kind of forget that Nicolas Solov won a feature race. In my head, he won quite a few sprint races, which he did, but he did also win a feature race. Again, it's insane that he wasn't fighting for the championship, in my opinion, because he had such a good season in terms of results. But I guess it's the consistency of the other drivers when they weren't winning races, or just in Fornaroli's case, the consistency he had just generally since he didn't win any races. I guess that's where Solov was lacking, but still, I feel like that he's shown enough potential to show that he's ready to take the next step. And then Nikita Bedrin won the sprint race. This is what I love about F3 and sprint races. It just gives drivers who maybe wouldn't be winning races, like if they were all feature races, the opportunity to win some. Like, it was great to see so many different faces winning the sprint races, as always happens. I was going to say this year, but it happens every year, and I think that's really, really cool. On to Spa. Now, I know I said Dino Bogdanovic peaked a bit early, but I do feel like he found some form later in the year as well, but it was just a little bit too late, unfortunately, because he did win the sprint race at Spa in round 9, which, again, I kind of forgot happened, but it did. And I feel like, yeah, Dino Bogdanovic could have been a better year for him, but I still don't see him doing F3 again. I still see him making the step up. Don't know what team that will be with yet, because obviously I think Prema will prioritise Gabriele Mini. Having said that, though, Prema will have 2 seats available. And Arvid Lindblad is with Campos, so they might choose to promote Bogdanovic at the same time. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like Bogdanovic had a good year, but it wasn't as consistent or standout as I expected. Obviously, looking back, him and Mini were battling each other in Freca, and Bogdanovic came out on top, but I feel like in F3, Mini has had the edge, but they're both really talented drivers, and I do see both of them progressing like to F2 next year. But anyway, I want to talk about the feature race because this was Callum Voisin's moment. Now, I've said earlier, I am a bit biased towards drivers who've done GB3 because I have watched that series for years. I go and watch it at the track at Donington Park, which is my local circuit. Like, I am a bit biased towards GB3 drivers, and Callum Voisin is no exception. But, I mean, you've got to give credit where credit's due. This was insane from him. He was on pole, he got fastest lap, and he won the race. In a Rodin. If he doesn't follow in Zach O'Sullivan's shoes and get the call up to Prema for a second year in F3, I will be shocked. Because, I don't know, I mean, he's such a solid driver. He's proved that. In a Rodin, I must say, they're not the best team in F3. And Zach O'Sullivan was the same. He outperformed in it was Carlin at the time. He outperformed in his Carlin in F3 and then got the call up to Prema. And Prema have 3 seats available next year, assuming that Bogdanovic is going to F2, which I'm assuming he will. Come on. Callum Voisin deserves at least to be in a top team. It doesn't have to be Prema, but I just know Prema have in the past, picked up drivers from Rodin who have shown that they've got a lot of potential. So I'd love to see that happen. Voisin deserves to be in a top team. And then we're on to the final round. And as soon as Leonardo Fornaroli got pole in that final round, I knew the direction this championship was going in. I just knew. This is the round I want to talk about the most because I feel like it was the most exciting one. Fornaroli on pole, and then Tim Tramnitz won the sprint race, but I want to speak about the feature race more because I've never been so stressed watching a race in my life. I really, really wanted Browning to do well in the race. In terms of championship, I think they all deserved it. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, I don't think this driver deserved to win. I wanted someone else to win. But I just wanted to see all 3 drivers do well, achieve results they were happy with, and then whoever came out on top. To see Browning have an incident in the race, I was just gutted. I was really, really upset. And I was so happy he managed to carry on and finish that race because I think to finish the year on a DNF would have been so depressing. But I was just disappointed for him because no one when they're fighting for a championship wants to have an incident like that where you have to do a pit stop. in a race where you don't have to do a mandatory pit stop. So I was gutted for him, not in the sense that I would rather him have won the championship than anyone else, because I don't want to start, saying things like that. But I was just really, I just wanted everyone to have a smooth race. And then whoever ended up in front was there from clean racing, no incidents, just fair battles. Having said that, once Browning was kind of out of the contention after that incident, the battling between Fornaroli and Mini and Mansell, he was there too. Oh my goodness. I've never seen anything like it. I know in the past, previous years of F3, I feel like the championship has either been decided well in advance or it's been decided off track, like if there's been red flags or DNFs or whatever. I just kind of, that last lap, I want to say I've never seen anything like it, but I know there have been last lap battles. Maybe I was just more invested in this one, I don't know, but I was glued to my TV screen. And for it to all happen on the last corner, I've never seen anything like that in a feeder series in F3. And also, something I've never seen is the winning driver who won the championship, Leonardo Fornaroli, to have no wins whatsoever in the entire season. That was crazy. I don't know. It was just obviously we've said Arvid Lindblad had quite a few wins. Gabriele Mini had a couple. Did he have a couple? Did he have one? Gabriele Mini had one, I think. In my head, he had more, but yeah, he had one. And it was the feature race in Monaco. And then Browning obviously had a few as well. I don't know. It's such a bizarre situation to win with no wins. But yeah, that was the F3 season. It was kind of a crazy one. And while the drivers who I expected to be fighting for the championship were, in fact, the ones fighting for the championship, I still didn't expect it to turn out the way it did in terms of it coming down to the last corner in Monza. And also the fact that the championship winner actually had no race wins in the end. But I think this will be a year where obviously a lot of F2 drivers have stepped up to F1 or probably aren't going to be doing F2 again. I think this is going to be a year where quite a few of these drivers do step up. I've already said Gabriele Mini, Christian Mansell, Dino Boganovic, Arvid Lindblad, who's already announced. Browning is going to be stepping up, I reckon. Well, half the drivers I've just mentioned are already doing F2 now for the rest of the year. So, yeah, Ollie Goethe as well, another who's doing F2 at the moment. Nikola Solov, I wouldn't be surprised if he steps up. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one next year, because I do think this year's kind of been a year where a lot of drivers have been second-year drivers in both F2 and F3. But now with some F1 seats opening up and some of those drivers stepping up to F1 next year from F2, I think there's going to be a lot of F3 drivers moving up to F2 and then a lot of new drivers entering F3. So it's kind of just a period where there is quite a bit of progression between the feeder series ladder, which I think is really exciting. So yeah, I guess they're my overall thoughts. I don't know if I have much more to add, just that I think there's been a lot of impressive talent in F3 this year, and I can't wait to see what they go on to do. And in terms of who I think is going to be fighting for the championship next year in F3, obviously it's hard to say without knowing who's going to definitely be in it, because not any drivers I don't think have been announced yet. But I do feel like if Callum Voisin gets promoted to a top team, he could be in contention for the championship. I think either Sammy Megatunic or Santiago Ramos, if they choose to stay with Trident, like Fornaroli did, they could be in with a good chance. It's hard to predict otherwise. It's so hard to... I don't want to jinx anyone, I don't want to, curse anyone's name saying it. But yeah, I also think, apart from the drivers who I've just mentioned, we could have a rookie winner in F3 next year. I think there's quite a few drivers who could be stepping up from Freca to F3 who could surprise. But yeah, I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to jinx anything. But I think it's going to be a very, very exciting year of F3 next year, as well as F2 and as well as F1, because we've got some rookies stepping up. So yeah, positive vibes. I'm looking forward to it. And now all my focus is on F2, on the F2 title fight that we still have yet to come. So I'll probably be back with a review of that as well, because I do still like doing these like little solo episodes, and I do think I'll try and do them in between when I don't have any guests on. But there will be guests coming up. We've got something in the works which will be exciting. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Stay tuned. Follow me on all social media at Down To The Tyre, and then you'll be the first to know about things. And yeah, we've rebranded. It's a new era. It's going to be more regular again now. I'm super excited, and I hope you are too. So for now, goodbye, and I'll see you soon, probably with a guest, hopefully with a guest. It's going to be really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Bye for now.